everybody, and welcome to What's Dylan Doing. It's a show about things that I've got going on in my life. I like to eat, I like to travel, I like to go to theme parks, I like to watch movies, I like to make stuff. Making stuff is probably what you're going to see most of on this channel. I'll sprinkle some things, other things in hither and thither, but the biggest thing I have going on right now is something I've been referring to as the Potter House project. It has completely consumed my life for the last 3 to 10 years. You can kind of see some of it behind me, but essentially my wife and I had the idea that we would theme our home or our living room to Harry Potter. And it's not like a recreation of Hogwarts or any kind of recreation of a specific place. It's kind of like our own interpretation of several places. If you've ever been to Universal Studios in Orlando, they have the Wizarding World of Harry Potter Diagon Alley, which we went to several years ago, and we've been going back every year since because we're just completely in love with it. I've picked a couple shops within Diagon Alley that I found things that I liked, the aesthetic that I liked, and I've kind of married them together. So I've kind of got this Borgin & Burke's Wiseacres Wizarding Equipment type thing going on. And we're going to kind of name the shop after ourselves, like it's going to be our own wizarding shop. Something that you haven't necessarily seen in the films or in the parks. We're going to steal some things from the parks and from the movies, but it's going to be our own design based on those things. So that's the biggest project that I have going on right now. Like I said, you're going to see a whole lot of it on this channel for a while because it's very time consuming and it's in a state of becoming. I have been working on it for several years and I intend to work on it for a lot longer until I feel that it's done. And then we're going to move, find our own place and put it all out and display it and make it beautiful and have it for everybody else to see and love. So today what we're going to be working on specifically is this Death Eater mask. And I ordered this off of eBay. It was pretty cheap, only like $40, which is, like I said, pretty cheap compared to the officially licensed masks that they sell in the parks and on several websites online. I think it's called the Noble Collection is who makes the screen accurate props. I didn't want to fork out that much money, and I also didn't want the ones that they were offering. They have Bellatrix's mask, Lucius Malfoy's mask, and they're like a chrome color, which it doesn't really fit the color scheme that I have going on in the room. And this one, I don't know who this mask belongs to. So if you guys know whose mask this is, the character anyway, leave a comment down below because I'd really love to know who this belongs to in the Potterverse. But this one, all the pictures that I've seen online, it's like a copper or a brass color, which really fits in with the aesthetic that I have going on in the room, the color scheme that I have going on. There's a lot of copper, there's a lot of black, there's a lot of burgundy. So this is going to look great once I get it all painted, which is what I'm going to be doing today. I got some copper colored paint. I'm going to paint the whole thing to make it look like a nice metal mask instead of this weird fleshy skin tone color that's on it currently. And I'm going to dirty it up and make it look old and used and really fit the aesthetic of the room. And I'm super excited about this because I've wanted one of these death masks since the first time we went to the parks. It's just going to fit so well. I'm really excited to get started on this. So this is what I'm going to be working on today. I've already stripped the inside of the mask out. There was like a foam liner on the inside as well as I don't know if you can see the holes in the side here. There's a strap that came on it because it's intended to wear it, which I have no intention of doing. It's just going to sit on a shelf as a display piece. I haven't quite decided if I'm going to paint the inside or just leave it like it is. I mean, people might want to pick it up and look at it. So I guess that's all going to depend on how OCD I'm feeling today. If I'm going to paint the inside or the back of it rather, or not, or just leave it like that. Who cares, right? I probably won't do the back or the inside. Anyway, I'm gonna be painting this today, but before we go outside and get started, I did want to kind of give you guys a look around the room. Everything that I have so far for this project is staged in this room. It's a lot, and it used to be all on like storage shelves, and I had it kind of like archived, so I knew what I had, knew what I needed to buy, things like that. But we're getting closer to a time where my wife and I are looking for a place for ourselves. Right now we live with a couple friends of ours and have for the last couple years. And so I started staging the room with props and furniture and figuring out what's gonna fit within our budget for a home or an apartment or something like that. I'm very picky. I'm constantly moving this stuff around, constantly changing the way that the props are sitting on the shelves, where the furniture sits in the room. However, right now it's in a state where I'm pretty excited about it. Like, I think this is the ideal format. There's quite a bit left to do. There's some more furniture I want to get. There's quite a few more props I want to get. There's a lot left to do in this room. But before we go outside, I want to kind of give you a look around quickly and show you what I've got set up so far. Like I said, I'm very excited about it, and hopefully you will be too. So let's go ahead and look around here. Then I'm gonna go change clothes, and then we're gonna go outside and paint. Okay, so this is what I have set up so far. Just a few cabinets that are dressed with all the props that we have. And then in the far corner, I have some other furniture pieces and some props that I haven't quite found a home for yet. If we turn back over here, this is my Apothecary cabinet. There's a lot going on in this one. All the bottles that I've collected over the years and purchased. There's a bunch of bones and skulls and books. There's some entomology up here. Some bats, some bugs, some shark jaws, which if you know anything about the Universal Parks, where Diagon Alley sits currently used to be Amity, which is from the Jaws movies. There was a Jaws boat ride there. So I figured I had to put some shark jaws in here to kind of put my little nod to it. And then just beside it here is our bookcase, which, believe it or not, is a full cabinet from IKEA. Well, this is a dresser from IKEA. And then I built the top and added it to that. But this is just a straight up dresser from IKEA. I just cut notches in each drawer, put on the handles, stained and painted the whole thing black. And like I said, built the top from scratch, added it to it, and then collected a ton of old nasty leather books. It is almost full. I have a couple more boxes coming this week, which I will show you guys in another video. I'm really excited to get this full and complete, but it's just a bunch of old leather books that are from anywhere from the early 1800s to the early 1900s. They're super torn up and dirty and smelly, and I love each and every one of them. I have no intention of reading them. Don't yell at me. I'm sorry. They're just there to look cool. And then amongst the books, there's some like paper scrolls, some old piano scrolls that kind of look like old paper scrolls. I've got the map from the movies. I've got a time turner from the movies. I've got an alligator head. There's another map from Harry Potter back there. This center cabinet in the room is our, well, what will be our entertainment stand. So there'll be a TV hanging on the wall in the center there that will also be framed to kind of match the antiques and things that I have on the shelf already. All of the stuff that I have on here is based off of things that I've seen in the Wiseacres Wizarding Equipment store. They have a lot of hourglasses and magnifying glasses and binoculars and cool trinkets that you would just see and think, oh, I need that to go to class at Hogwarts. So that's the kind of theme that I have going on there. And then to the left of that is this old general store display case, which I bought the top portion as a display case, and it's actually upside down. So what you see as the top would have normally been the base. I bought it, flipped it upside down, built this stand that it sits on, painted the whole thing to look old and decrepit, and I don't know what I'm gonna do with it yet. What I was originally building as a terrarium so that we could have like live animals in the living room, some kind of reptile or frogs or something like that, which we ended up buying those animals. Well, we got a couple geckos and put them in terrariums, but they live in our room. So I don't know what I'm gonna do with this yet. I love it, and I can't seem to want to part with it. So wherever we go, it's coming too, but I don't know what I'm gonna do with it yet. So some ideas that I have about the room, it's set up in a way that I think would look good in the space when when it's actually all done. However, I do want another cabinet, large cabinet, to go on this wall. And I have this pie cabinet over here to the left that I would hopefully want to sit beside that. It's behind all that stuff there. It's got a mirror in the center. The reason that's over there is because I'm not gonna dress it with props. It's just gonna be a standalone piece. So for right now, just to get it out of the way, it's in the back over here. But the idea is that I would get another cabinet to go on this wall with a pie cabinet beside that, and then fill the next large cabinet with a bunch of props similar to what you see on these other ones. But that is a project and a topic for another day. So I am going to go get changed and get set up outside, and we will get started. Okay, I've got everything set up. Got my mask all cleaned, and I am ready to get started with the paint. Probably gonna take me a few coats, but we'll see. Okay, got my belly full. I got the mask flipped over and I painted the reverse side of it. Just so happens while I was eating that I got a delivery for more books for the bookcase up in the Potter House project room. So I think we're gonna go upstairs and open these books while this mask is drying. And then I'll probably have to kind of put a pause on the project until tomorrow, just so I can let the mask fully cure and dry before I start adding more layers to it. The stuff that I'm going to be doing to it past this point is going to be some harsher chemicals, some harsher paints, and I don't want to ruin the spray paint work that I've just done. So we're going to let it cure overnight. We're going to go open up these books and check them out, and then we'll come back to this tomorrow. All right, there they are in their new home. And these are the ones that I just opened here. And I got this set yesterday or the day before yesterday. But these are exactly the same ones that I have up on the second shelf here. And I thought that they would be a different color. And I think they're the same color. It's just that those have seen a lot more wear and tear than these do, the new ones. They look great though. I'm really pleased with that. Like I said, I have like two more shipments of books coming that will finish off the shelf. And then I have some that are gonna kind of stack across the top. And then I'll fill that in with the scrolls and stuff that you see on the other shelves, the paper scrolls and things like that. And they are going to look sharp. But then this whole cabinet will be done. Once I get that done, get the paper scrolls done, do any kind of aging and things that I can think of to finish this off, and then finish that the mask that we're working on today, which I think is gonna sit in the corner down here. I haven't fully decided yet, but it's probably gonna perch up in that little crevice behind the feather there. But this whole cabinet will be 100% done. It'll be the first thing that I have completely finished with this whole project that has taken me years. Years and years and years. It is gonna feel so stinking good. They look gorgeous. Heck yes. I love it. I love it, I love it, I love it, I love it. Hey everybody, and welcome back. I know it's only been like a couple seconds since the last clip for you guys, but for me it's been an entire night. It is the next day, and I've got everything set up to get finished on this mask. I do have a couple things I need to do other than the mask today, because tomorrow I go back to work, so I gotta do like regular stuff, laundry, dishes. No fun at all. I've got a few hours to dedicate to it. I'm ready to just get it knocked right out of the park, so hopefully I don't screw anything up. Typically, if I screw something up, I just start over again. So I really don't want to do that. The spray paint dried really nice. It cured really nice overnight. So it should be good to go as long as I don't mess it up. Let's get started. So first things first, I got the mask all cleaned and prepped and ready for some more layers of paint. It dried all night last night and it turned out really good. I'm very happy with it. It's got a nice shine, a nice sheen to it. No fingerprints, so it looks fantastic. Up over here, I've got all the stuff that I'm gonna be using today. The first Coca-Cola bottle there on the left is a black rub out, which is just black acrylic paint and some isopropyl alcohol. Sometimes people just use water in acrylic paint, which typically gives you the same result. It's just that the isopropyl alcohol dries a lot faster. Same thing to the right of that, the one that's labeled rust. It's the exact same thing except for it's not black paint, it's red and brown paint. And I also have mixed in some like sawdust and some artificial dirt that I have left over from some scale model making, just to give it some texture. And then I've got some brown acrylic paint, some chalk pastels, a paintbrush, and some towels. And then I have some paper towels and a handy dandy dish, which I'll use for like water to clean my brushes or to mix things. That's pretty much all I'm gonna be using. If I do end up using anything else along the way, if something just pops into my mind, I will let you guys know what I'm using. But that's pretty much it. That's the ingredients I'm gonna be cooking with today. And I'm really excited to get started and see how this thing turns out. It's gonna be so cool. All right, you guys, so the first thing I'm gonna be doing to the mask is I'm gonna be using the two rub outs that I mentioned. I think what I'm gonna do first is the black color, and I'm gonna do that around the eyes because before I spray painted it, they had these really nice dark circles around the eyes. So I'll probably do that around the eyes, a little bit around the nose and mouth, and then switch to the rust colored. So I'm gonna get started with that now. The rust colored I'm probably going to use within all of these lines across the mask so it really gets in those crevices, and then just wipe off the excess so it just kind of stays within those crevices. So that's the first step, and then we will move on from there. So this is what I've got done so far. You could see I just did the eyes, the nose, and then part of the mouth. I think I'm gonna stop with the black there for now and switch over to the rust color that I have prepared and start doing these grooves in the mask. I don't want to do it too black heavy. I want that to be real subtle. So as you can see, there's not a whole lot of changes so far to it, but it does add a very subtle effect to the mask. And the more that I do to it, the more it's going to change. But for now, real simple, easy steps. Not a lot has changed. And we're going to switch over to the rest and see where that takes us. Okay, so to give some better insight on what I'm doing here is I'm just filling all these lines with that rust colored paint, and then it's called a rub out because you're rubbing it off of the surface, but it's trapped within these little grooves here. So it just darkens them up, and I rub off the color on the surface and it stays within inside those lines. So you can really tell where I've done the work around the mouth and the difference between that and the forehead, because I haven't done any work up there yet, but it's trapped within all these little grooves here, and it just kind of highlights them and brings them out and adds some more depth to the piece. And if you're doing this at home on anything, you will notice there's some spots where you haven't really gotten the rub out off of the surface, but in my opinion, it just makes it look more old and more worn and more used. So you don't really have to focus on getting it perfectly clean, the surface, and just getting it in within those grooves, because you're making happy little accidents on your mask or whatever project you're working on. So it ends up looking cool. What you might think is a mistake or looks dirty ends up looking really cool. And I'm gonna make it more dirty later. So I'm not too worried about those things as long as I get the majority of the rub out off of the surface. That's really all I'm concerned about. And you will notice that, like, I keep moving it around. Some of it hasn't dried yet and it's like running out of the grooves, so I have to keep wiping it. But if you were to leave it alone, do the opposite of what I'm doing and let it kind of sit and dry for a second, you won't have that issue. But that's why I use the rubbing alcohol, because it dries much quicker, much quicker than watered down paint does. So I've got all of my lines done with the rust colored paint. I did go back and add some around the nostrils and the mouth, because naturally if someone were wearing this mask, it's gonna rust where there's moisture. And if you're breathing in and out of this mask, it's gonna come through, the moisture's gonna collect at the mouth and at the nostrils. So that's where the rustiest parts of the mask would be realistically. So I went back and added some there. I might do a little bit around the eyes really quick, just because I've only done the black there and I want to kind of see what kind of dimension it will give it if I do some of the rust around the eyes as well. If you did notice, I kind of go from doing a blotch to a full-on wipe. And that's because when I'm blotching, I'm not picking as much of it off of the surface. You can really tell on the mouth here, because I want the paint to stay on the surface as well as go in the crevices of the mask. So if you're blotching, you're going to keep a lot more on the surface than you would if you're just completely wiping it away. So it's a little bit of technique with this, but you can't really screw it up. This is one of the coolest and easiest ways to make something look old that I have found. And I use rub outs on darn near everything that I do as far as props and stuff like that goes. It just has a way of making everything look much older, much more defined, like it's been around the block a few times, you know? Creepy, creepy, creepy. All right, I'm getting back to it. Back to it. Okay, so I think for now, I am done with the rub out. Looking nice and old. See, before, I could have just left it with that spray painted copper brass color on there, but it was very one-dimensional. So by adding these little touches, it just makes it look more real, more used, like someone has actually worn this mask, like it has been moved and touched and picked up hundreds of times. I don't like things to look new. It looks 10 times better than what it did before, even though before it still looked really cool. So I actually decided while looking at this that I'm going to do another step, and it's not going to be a big thing, but I have grabbed a little bit of sandpaper. This is 150 grit, so it's fine grit sandpaper, and I'm not going to do a lot of this because a lot of this will screw up everything that I've done so far. But I just wanted to add a few scuff marks to the mask to make it look like maybe it's been dropped a couple times, where there's some scratches on it. I don't know if you can tell or if that's gonna come through camera, but very, very subtle. Very subtle. The wrong pressure, the wrong amount of time in one spot will screw this whole thing up. So I'm just gonna do this very subtly in just a few spots. Real subtle. Real subtle. That looks cool. I'm good with that. Okay. Get the sandpaper the heck out of here before I screw it up. And now on to the next step. So next up, I've got some chalk pastels. Now, I'm not sure how well this is going to work. I do this technique on a lot of other things and it seems to work really well, but this is a very non-porous surface, which means that it's not going to absorb the chalk pastels as well as I might think that it could, but I am going to give it a shot anyway. Basically, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this X-Acto knife, razor blade, and I'm going to chip some of this off into a fine powder. I have a couple different colors here, and I might add some more colors depending on how it looks as I'm doing it. But I'm going to chip this up into a fine powder, soak it up in my brush, and then I'm going to also dab that onto the mask. And I'm only going to do this in areas where rust would naturally collect. So as I stated before, around the nose and around the mouth as well. I'm really hoping it works. If it does, it's going to look pretty cool. If not, no biggie. It already looks awesome. It already looks way better than when I bought it. So we're going to give this a shot and see how it goes and then go from there. It's not necessarily having the desired effect that I was hoping it would, and I was kind of worried about that, but it has picked up a little bit of the pigment, so I'm not gonna mess with it. I think I'm happy with it. I think I'm good with this, you guys. It turned out pretty stinking cool. So I'm gonna go ahead and put clear coat on it, and I will show you guys the final product when I'm done. It's not gonna look much different than this, but it will be cool to kind of sit down and talk about the final product after I get everything finished and cleaned up. So that's what I'm gonna go do now. Go ahead and add the clear coat and call it finished. Well, two things. One, I don't have any matte fixative. And two, I did a little bit of work off camera. I don't know if you could tell in that last clip, but I was a little discouraged by the chalk pastels and how they weren't doing exactly what I wanted them to. And then I had an idea, which was to use, to just barely put my brush in rubbing alcohol like I had used to dilute my paints for the rub out. And then I dipped that directly into the chalk pastels and applied it to the mask. And it ended up working out pretty well. I'll show you what I got here. My completed mask. If you can see what I have done to the mouth and the nose area of the mask, it just looks rusty, which is exactly what I was going for. It looks dry and rusty, and it ended up working out perfectly. I'm really excited about it. It wasn't a massive project. I didn't intend for it to be. It really didn't take me much time at all, just the spray paint and then the rub outs and a little bit of work with some chalk pastels. And it's finished. So, like I said yesterday, I plan on putting this on the shelf with the books, but I'm not really sure yet. It needs something, maybe a stand or something to prop it up on, or maybe it'll just lean up against some books. I'm not 100% sure, but for now, this bad boy is finished. I really hope you dig it as much as I do. It could have been a little bit better had I had some more tools. I don't have an airbrush. An airbrush really would have set this thing off, but instead, I just had to work with what I have, which, you know, it always works out for the best. I always end up making do with what I have on hand. This room may look pretty cool, but a lot of it's pretty low budget. The most money that I've spent on is antiques. The antiques are quite expensive. But other than that, I just make do with stuff that I have sitting around the house. But anyways, we're gonna say goodbye to him for now. And I think that's where I'm gonna end this video. It has gone on for far too long, just much longer than I had anticipated for a first video on the channel. We're probably racking up 30 minutes, close to 30 minutes here. But I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I hope you come back around for my next couple projects. Got some really exciting stuff lined up, and I hope you guys are as jazzed about it as I am. But until then, take care of yourselves, stay nice, stay safe, and I'll see you guys later. Thanks again for watching, everyone. I really appreciate it. Hey, do me a favor. If you liked this video, give it a thumbs up because it really does help my channel out. And while you're at it, you can subscribe to the channel and enable notifications. That way you never miss an episode.